How's everybody? So I'm just checking to make sure we're live because my phone has been acting rather strange lately. So just want to make sure we're up and we're live, and I believe we are. Hope everybody's having a great day. Super excited to dive into this topic today because it's something that Cliff and I talk about often. Hey, Audra, how are you? Audra, you can hear me okay? Everything is good? Okay, so it looks like we're good. Hey, Pearl, how are you? So, so happy to be here today. Deborah Porter, I'm with Moms Mentoring Circle, and that's where we support moms, whether at-home moms, working moms, but with strategies to make sure that your home could run even if you chose to take a 3-day staycation, momcation, somewhere away from home. That is such a big thing for me, to make sure that moms realize that yes, we love being a mom, we love our kids, but the girl you were before having kids still matters. And so my goal is to support you with the confidence in making those decisions, with the courage to make sure you have the support and the help that you need to get that stuff done, and the clarity to understand what's most important. What needs to be done now? What is the actual priority that I need to complete? And what are the things in my home that need to be done that can be done by or for others? Okay, so that's what I do. But today, we're going to be talking about how much of your past do you share with your kids? How much of your past have you shared with or told your children? Whether they've asked you questions like, Mommy and Daddy, did you ever do drugs? Mommy and Daddy, did you drink underage? Whatever the question may be, how much of that do you share with them? How honest are you with them? And then what thought have you given to that before those moments arrive, so that maybe you have a plan and a way to approach how that conversation might go? So a couple things I want us to think about and keep in mind. I've got my notes up here today instead of down here. But a couple things I want us to keep in mind as we're approaching this subject. And there are a couple things you want to ask yourself even before you answer. And those things are, will this help them, or is this helping me? And here's what I mean by that. Is the topic or the question or the thing they're asking me, or the topic that I want to bring up, is this going to help them? Or am I in a place right now where I need a confidant? I need somebody to talk to about my own situation. I need a girlfriend to talk about this relationship that I'm in, whether it's the relationship with their father, or whether it's a relationship, if you're divorced or not together and it's a different relationship. Or if it's, well, my son's a little man of the house, so I need to ask his advice as a guy. If the answer to either of those two questions is, do I need a confidant? Am I doing this for me? If the answer is yes to either one of those, don't have this conversation. Just, you know what? We could stop right there. If the answer is yes, don't do it. Because it is not appropriate for us to burden our children with adult stuff. It's just not appropriate. So if what you want to talk to them about is not to help or benefit them, but it's more because you need somebody to talk to, don't do it. Okay? So that's the first thing. That's the first thing I want us thinking about when we're talking about how much of my past do I discuss with my children. So we're going to just dive right in. We'll dive right in. We got to remember too that we are, and we know this as parents, we know that we are our kids' examples. Hi, Clifton. How are you? We're doing well. Good to see you. How are you doing? We have to keep in mind a couple of things. We know that we are our children's example. We know that we are their first teachers. They learn a lot from us. We are an example of, in our attitude, in our spiritual endeavors, what and how we teach them about who God is and who God is in them, our work ethic, our attitude with each other, how we love people, how we forgive, what we do with anger, like all of that. We're teaching them all of that just by everyday living, not because we're sitting down and saying, let's do a lesson on forgiveness. Nope. They're watching how you forgive. Let's do a lesson on fear. Nope. They're watching the things that cause you to be afraid. So we're always teaching them, even in the moments that we're not doing it in a formal way. So here's what I want us to think about in that way. Yes, we're their example, but we are not perfect. We're flawed. So, I've been reading this book by Brene Brown called The Gift of Imperfect Parenting. And it's been great. And I would recommend that book, actually. The other thing about that is we sometimes come to parenting with this position like, we know what we're doing. We always know what we're doing. We're always in control. Listen, there are sometimes as a parent, you don't always know. You're doing the best you know at the moment. You are making the best decision you can at the moment. But we're learning. We're learning. Clifton says, I'm great, just tired of being stuck in the house. Yes, 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 we all are. Audra says, this is so good. It's supporting me. Thank you so much, Audra. So yes, we are their first teachers. Yes, we are the example. That does not mean that we have to present as being perfect. If you have followed me for 5 minutes, you know how I feel about this whole perfection thing. And the whole goal of perfection is to rob you of your peace, your inner peace. So the goal is not to be perfect, but the goal is to be honest, and the goal is to be an example. So, I can't read my own handwriting. So here's the point. Many times we will use the fact that we're flawed and that we are imperfect to not approach a subject. Because I made the mistake. So I don't really want to talk to them about it because I'm afraid they're going to make the same mistake I made. I think we can approach it differently. I think we're going to talk about 5 things to consider when you're discussing your past with your kids. 5 things to keep in mind when you're discussing your past with your kids. And I think if we think about it before it happens, I think we can step into that conversation a little more confident about where it's going or what we want to do with it. Okay, so 5 things to consider when discussing your past with your children. The first thing, and this is really important because this is going to set the tone for future conversations. And I don't mean future like in a couple weeks. I mean years as they grow up and grow older. This first point is going to set the ground for that. And that is, don't lie. Don't lie, because it is going to be found out. So if you're being asked a question, you don't want to be completely honest, you don't want to share and dive into it, there are ways to just say, I don't know if we're ready to talk about that right now. Another, which I think is a better way of asking, is ask them, what is it that you're really asking? Or what do you mean from that question? Or what are you trying to find out from that question? And I like to tell this story about this little boy. He was like 7, maybe 7 years old. His mom's cooking in the kitchen. He comes in the kitchen and he says, Mommy, what is sex? He's like 7. So she's like, oh my God, I have to do this today. So, she grabs her coffee, sits down with the little boy and gives him, he's 7, gives him the whole rundown of what sex is. He looks at her very confused and says, how do I fit that in this little box? He just wanted to know, am I male or female? Which box do I need to check? So before you are ready to just go in and give all the information about a question they're asking, find out what it is they're really asking. Audra says, and they say there's no manual. You are my guide, girl. But find out what they're really asking. The little boy did not want to know about the birds and the bees and how babies are made. He wanted to know, do I check male or do I check female? Hey, Mickey. So find out before you go in to just, give them the whole, honest to goodness truth about everything. Find out what it is they're really asking, but don't lie. Tell them the age-appropriate true story. Because the answer to that question, what is sex at 7 years old, is different than at 15 years old. And hopefully by 15 years old, there have been several conversations and then you don't have a 15-year-old coming to you asking you that. Hey, Mickey, how you doing? Right? So don't lie. Tell them the age-appropriate true story and let them hear it from you. Because here's the thing. All of us don't have the pretty stories of growing up. Hey, Jessica. all of us don't have pretty, put a bow on it, childhoods or young adulthoods. Some of us been through some stuff, and it's not all pretty. Audra says, perfect. Find out what they are really asking. I've screwed up on this already. You can recover. We can recover from anything. But we don't all have a pretty story. But you don't want them to hear part of your story from somebody other than you, right? Nobody can tell my story like me. Nobody can tell where I came from and what I've come through. Like the old saints say, I don't look like what I've been through. Nobody can tell it like you. So this first point is don't lie. Tell them the age-appropriate true story and let them hear it from you, right? There are these little family secrets, you know, that nobody wants to talk about, the little stuff that gets whispered about, the little stuff that's talked about kind of, you know, in the kitchen when nobody's paying attention. Listen, we got to get over that. We got to get over that. You know, many of you already know that I met my father for the first time in my life at the age of 21. So my kids know their grandfather. They've always known him. They've known him growing up. You know, I met him before I had them. But what I didn't realize is that they didn't know the story. And I was talking to Cliff or somebody, and they were kind of around playing. And I said, well, I met him at 21. And they were like, what? Mommy, what'd you say? You met granddad? You met grandpa at 21? Hey, Tina, that is true. Get to the main reason for asking the question. Yep. You didn't know grandpa growing up? And it wasn't that I was keeping it a secret from them. I've never kept it a secret. But I just didn't realize that I hadn't actually sat them down and told them the story. But it was important that they heard that from me. They didn't need to hear that from an aunt, from a cousin, from grandma. They needed to hear that from me. And so when your kids are asking you questions and when stuff comes up, don't lie. Tell them the age-appropriate true story. Let them hear it from you. Let them hear your story from you. And can I just throw into under this first point? I know this is meaty. It's just point number 1. Don't teach them to lie either. Don't teach them to lie. Don't take your daughter out shopping and say, now put these clothes in your closet real quick before your daddy sees them. Or hide these shoes, or have your daughter or your son with you while you're shopping and hiding stuff so your husband doesn't see it, or vice versa. Or don't teach them to do that. Hey, Valerie, how are you? Don't teach them to do that, because it's beyond just this moment, right? It's beyond just this moment of you watching me hide things and be deceitful to your dad. What will you take from that into your relationships? Okay, so this is all point number 1, okay? Don't lie. Tell them the age-appropriate true story. Let them hear your story from you, right? My kids heard from me about me meeting my father at the age of 21. They didn't hear that because somebody blurted it out at a dinner table somewhere. They heard that story from me. And don't teach them to lie. Find out what it is they're really asking before you dive in with the whole question, with the whole answer. Don't be the mom of the 7-year-old who just wanted to know, am I male or female? And when he asks about sex, she gives him every detail and he's completely confused. Okay, point number 1. Point number 2 is, can they learn from my mistake? Hey, Kathy, how are you? Can they learn from my mistake? Okay, that's first part of this question. Can they learn from my mistake? Yes, they can learn. Okay, good. You need a couple of other yeses with this. So if they can learn, that's a good thing. Here's the other part. Are they open to hearing it? Because y'all, let me just say, these kids are not always open. Our young adults or teenagers, they're not always open to hear it, right? So the question is, can they learn from it? Yes. Am I willing to share what I learned? Yes. But are they open to it? That might be a no. Mickey says, phone dying, going to find a charger. Yay, get a charger, Mickey. So you need 3 yeses there. It needs to be something they can learn from. It needs to be something you're willing to share. And they need to be open to receive it. And they're not always. They're not always open to receive it. But be careful here. Let me just put an asterisk next to this one. Be careful here. Do not talk about failed relationships with your kids. I mean, if they're like middle school relationships and they've had a breakup, that can relate. But I mean either current or recent relationships, whether it's their dad or if you're not married to their dad, a new boyfriend. Like, don't use this as an opportunity to teach your child about a future relationship with a man by explaining to her about the hardship and the breakup and the messed up relationship you just got out of with a man. Not cool. Newsflash, your daughter is not your girlfriend. I know. That's a hard hit. But I'm going to say it again. Your daughter is not your girlfriend. Get you some girlfriends. Your son is not the little man in the house to give you advice about guys. Not cool. Don't do it. It's a burden on them that you can't remove once they have it. You can't remove, once you have put your adult issue on them, you can't remove that. Hey, Debbie Mercer. Debbie says, hey, Debbie, another great topic. I'm at the stage in life where my granddaughter is asking questions. Thanks for the pointers. My pleasure. Kathy says, say it again. Yeah, so here's the thing. Remember, you need 3 yeses here. Can they learn from my mistake? Yes. Yes, they can. Am I willing to share it? Yes. Yes, I am. Are they open to receive it? That's really, if they're not, just wait. And don't use this as a moment to try to teach them about relationships by using yourself as an example. Current relationship, something with their dad, something with a boyfriend. Don't do that. Just say, this. Don't do that. Especially if it's their dad, because then you're putting them in a position where they have to now choose. They have to choose a side. You may not think you're making them choose a side. They think they have to choose a side. And plus, it's just TMI. Don't nobody want to hear about what their parents are like. Don't nobody want to hear that. It's too much. Okay. First one, don't lie. Can they learn from my mistake? Point number 3. Sometimes sharing about your past, about something that you have learned from, can help you seem more approachable and more human. Right? Because we present as parents like we have been together, we have got it together, we've always had it together. Get on board, child. So sometimes in certain moments, it's helpful for them to understand and know, wow, you really do understand how I feel about that. So I remember Chanel was being bullied. Hey, Amanda Porter, how are you? Chanel was being bullied by some little girl. And as a mother, you just want to be like, why are you messing with my child? Not appropriate. I didn't do that, by the way. But, that's kind of what why are you messing with my child? But what I did was I explained to Chanel about a time when I was a girl, when I was being bullied. And so that she could understand, I really do understand how this feels. And her question was, well, what happened? How did it end? And actually, God provided a miracle for me, because we started school that next September, and that girl and her family moved like 3 towns over. And I was only being bullied in school. So that wasn't how it ended for Chanel, but there was something we were able to connect to early on that I was able to have her know. I understand what that feels like. So when you're talking about how much of my past do I share and tell my children, right? That was point 3. Point 1 was don't lie. Tell them the age-appropriate true story. Let them hear your story from you. Don't leave that to somebody else. Don't let them hear somewhere at cousin somebody's house, Mommy, I didn't know such and such. Let them hear your story from you. Age appropriate. Can they learn from my mistake? Remember, we need the 3 yeses. Can they learn from it? Yes. Am I open to share it? Yes. Are they open to receive it? If that's a no, then you just got to sit on that one and wait. Don't use it as an opportunity to share with your kid or talk to your kid about relationship issues, current or recent. Number 3 was, if sharing, that can sometimes make me more approachable and more human. And, that I've been a kid before too. Like I know how I've felt some of that stuff. All right. Number 4, they will learn that they can recover from their mistakes or being mistreated or being treated unfairly. Because in that moment, as a kid, it feels like this is the end of the world right here. This is where it all ends. And it's important for them to understand, no matter what the mistake, listen, no matter what the mistake, There is a way back. You can recover no matter how you were mistreated, no matter how you were bullied, no matter who didn't pick you to be on their team and you were the last one chosen. I don't know if they even do that anymore. Remember when you had to stand and there were two captains and I'll take you and and then there's always the last like one or two people left. I was always that last one or two because I was not very athletic. So whenever it was like a game, kickball, basketball, I was always one of the last ones picked. But you know, they can recover. And that's really what we want them to get out of that. And so you want to share, if you're sharing an experience that can connect with how they're feeling, you want to share from a positive place. You don't want to share from a place of still holding a grudge. You don't want to share from a place of being resentful or being vindictive or still wanting to get back at that person. I don't want to say too much, but we went back to my hometown one day and the young lady who had been bullying me pretty much my entire childhood, we happened to see at a particular thing. And, you know, I talked with her. It was good seeing her and everything. And then we walked away and I told her, and I said, that was her. And she was like, what? I was like, that was the girl that's with. She was like, oh my gosh, Ma, you were so nice. I didn't even notice. I would have never guessed. Because here's the thing. Why? We were kids. Right? So I'm able to share that, but not from a place of, oh my gosh, I'm not talking to her. Or, oh my gosh, I cannot believe she came over here to talk to me. No, like, really? So when you're sharing about the thing you've recovered from, the mistake, the mistreatment, the unfair treatment, share it from a positive place. Share it from a place of forgiveness, right? Because they're not going to learn forgiveness from us because we sit them down to teach them a lesson on forgiveness. They're going to learn forgiveness from us watching us forgive or not. That's how they're going to learn it. So choose to share it from a positive place. Choose to share it from a place of it's a past thing. And when people know better, they do better. When people know better, they do better. All right, that's point number 4. Point number 5 is sharing some of your past with your child might provide them with the security and the trust in your relationship for them to know that they can confide in you. Hey, Desiree. It may give them, you being a little bit vulnerable might make them feel like it's safe to be a little bit vulnerable with you as well. So it kind of opens, hey, Maxine, it kind of opens up the door a little bit for them to know that vulnerability is not a negative thing. Showing your emotions and feelings is not a bad thing. Extending and stepping out on trust to share with somebody is not a negative thing. Okay, so these were 5 points. We were talking about how much of your past do you share with your children. I'm going to do a quick recap. Those that are just joining, you can watch the replay if you want, but I'm going to do a quick recap. The question we want to consider before doing this, is this going to help them or is this going to help me? Because if you're doing this to help you because you need a confidant or something just happened and you just need somebody to talk to and the only people there are your kids, just don't. That's a hard thing to come back from. All right. So the 5 things you want to consider, though, are 1, don't lie. Don't lie. Don't tell them yes. Don't give them a hard yes when that's really not the truth. Don't lie. Tell them the age-appropriate true story. Let them hear your story from you. I talked about my dad, meeting my dad for the first time at 21 years old. Realized at some point my kids never knew that. They knew their grandpa, but they didn't know that story. They heard me telling somebody, they were like, what are you talking about? You didn't grow up knowing grandpa? What? So it wasn't a secret. I thought I told them. But they needed that from me, right? They needed to hear that from me. All right, so that's point number 1. Don't lie. Don't teach them to lie either. Don't go shopping and then have your daughter or son help you hide the boxes and the bags or hang the clothes. Don't do that. Don't do that. Just buy and say, I bought it. It's mine. All right, number 2, can they learn from my mistake? Yes. Am I willing to share? Yes. Are they open to receive? Yes. Okay, 3 yeses. You got a green light. If any of those is a no, can they learn from my mistake? No. Then don't share it. Can they learn from my mistake? Yes, but I'm not ready to share it yet. All right, you need 3. Those need to all be yeses. And you want to be careful here that you don't use this as it pertains to current or recent relationships for you. That's just a no. I'm a firm believer that your children, as they are children, are not your friends. So your daughter is not your girlfriend to be discussing that stuff with. Your son is not the little man of the house now, and so you can share with him. Don't do that. That's a no. Number 3, sharing can help you seem more human and be more approachable. Being willing to share and to open up with them about something you've done or gone through can help you be more human. Number 4, they will learn that they can recover from mistakes and being mistreated if you model that and use your experience as an example of that by sharing that experience from a current positive place, from not holding a grudge, from not presenting it in a resentful or vindictive way, by not burdening them with that kind of baggage, right? I was able to share with them the story of how I met my father at 21, what that did for me and what that did for them. Like, they get to grow up with their grandfather, as opposed to, he was never around, we're not going to see him, we're not calling him on Father's Day, he was never a father to me. No, I'm not going to burden them with all that. No, because they're going to leave my house burdened like that. And they're going to leave my house thinking that's how you handle stuff. You hold a grudge. You hold on to it. No. It's amazing. It's a miracle. It's an amazing miracle. I'm reconnected with my dad. You guys have a grandfather. This is the best thing ever. So share it from a positive place without resentment, without a vindictive tone in, the way that you're delivering it. Don't burden them with that. And then number 5 is it may provide them with a bit more of an ability to be vulnerable. Vulnerability, I don't know if it's a cultural thing or not, but I think that many of us struggle with being vulnerable. Just being able to open up and being okay with what people see and find in us when we do that. So I think being able to share in these ways with our children begins to make them feel like it's safe. I can be vulnerable. I can open up and I can share. All right. I hope this helped you guys. This really took me to some places when I was putting this one together today. It had me really have to kind of think through some things. And, I'll be honest, I haven't nailed it. I didn't nail it all the time. There were, sometimes we want so desperately to protect our kids from something that we're not willing to step into it. Right? So we're so wanting to keep them from a struggle that we had that we almost feel like we have to keep it a secret. But I learned eventually that that's really not how to do it, because what happens is then every generation goes into this situation without the tools on how to handle it. So I made a decision at some point that I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going to let them have to stumble through and find and figure stuff out on their own. Now, they may on their own do that. Remember, we were talking about one of those where if they're not open to receive it, then it doesn't matter. But as much as it depends on me, I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to talk about some mistakes. I'm willing to talk about some unfair treatments. I'm willing to talk about some stuff that's not particularly comfortable, because I want you to have the tools that maybe I didn't when I went into that situation. Deborah says, greatly. Valerie says, yep. Audra says, thanks for keeping it real with us. This is a great topic and one to play back often. Deborah Mercer says, what's the name of the book you mentioned earlier? Yes, the name of the book is by Brene Brown. I'll also put a link here for it, Deborah, but it's called The Gift of Imperfect Parenting. And it really just kind of lets us off the hook of this whole thing has to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. It's not. Even in your best attempt to be the perfect mother, newsflash, you'll make a mistake. You'll mess up. It's not going to be perfect. It's okay. It's okay. They're pretty resilient. And we are too. We're pretty darn resilient too. So I hope this supported you. Pearl says, love it. And also true. Thank you. Hey, Rhonda Anderson. How you doing? Rhonda, I'm just finishing. You're going to have to go back and watch the replay. We've been on for, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes at this point. So I hope you guys got some value out of it. I will put the link up to the book that I referenced. And y'all know that if you need any support in this whole motherhood journey, and this journey into being a confident mom, please let me know. Just send me a DM. I'm always here to support in any way that I can. Valerie says, great stuff. Thanks, you guys. Go have a great dinner, and I will talk with y'all later. Bye.